The great crystal halls of Zephyr Prime shook as another explosion rocked the planet's surface. Admiral Kethver stood before the massive viewing screen in the High Council chamber, his translucent blue form flickering with patterns of deep worry. The screen showed their homeworld from space, and it was not a pretty sight. Dark ships moved like hungry insects around their beautiful planet, firing red beams that left smoking craters where once proud cities had stood. Commander Velthara approached the Admiral with quick steps. Her crystal body was cracked in several places from the stress of the past few days. She had been fighting without rest since the Vorthic Empire arrived in their system 3 days ago. Her voice carried the weight of terrible news when she spoke. "Admiral, we have lost another 12 bioships in the outer defense ring," she reported. "The enemy's nano-weapons are adapting faster than our organic hulls can heal. Our captains are requesting permission to fall back to the inner planet defenses." Kethver's form pulsed with a deep purple color that meant anger among his people. But it was not anger at his brave crews who had fought so hard. It was anger at their enemy, the Vorthic Empire, who had swept across half the galaxy like a plague of metal and death. The Vorthak were different from any enemy the Zephyrians had ever faced. Most species in the galaxy fought with honor and followed the old rules of war. But the Vorthak cared nothing for honor or rules. They only cared about winning and taking. What they wanted: how many ships do we have left that can still fight? The Admiral asked, though he feared the answer. 37 bioships are still battle-ready, Velthara replied. But Admiral, their weapons learn from every attack we make. Each time our energy beams hit their hulls, their ships change to resist that same attack. Within minutes, our most powerful weapons become useless against them. The Admiral turned away from the screen and looked around the council chamber. The other members of the High Council were there, but many seats stood empty. Some council members had died when the Vorthak first attacked their outer colonies. Others had fled to distant, safe worlds when it became clear that their home system was doomed. Only the bravest and most loyal had stayed to face the end with their people. Elder Zixmuth was the oldest being in the chamber. His crystal form was so ancient that it had begun to turn white with age. He had lived through 7 different wars and had seen his people survive threats that should have destroyed them. But even he looked afraid now. His old voice shook when he spoke. "The enemy will reach our inner defenses within 2 days," he said. "Our children and elders are being evacuated to the deep caves, but there is not enough time to save everyone. We need a miracle, something that the Vorthak have never seen before." Counselor Nethril stood up from her seat. She was younger than the others, but had studied the ancient histories more than anyone else in the room. Her form glowed with nervous energy as she spoke words that made everyone listen carefully. "There might be something," she said slowly. "In the oldest archives, in the deepest data vaults that we inherited from the first civilization, there are stories about a species from the edge of the galaxy. The records are very old, and most scholars think they are just myths created to teach lessons to young ones." "What kind of stories?" asked the Admiral. Nethril's form flickered as she accessed the ancient data through her neural link. "The stories speak of creatures that look different from any known species. They are small compared to most galactic races, but they have something that makes even the most powerful enemies fear them. The old texts call them humans and say they come from a small blue world that circles a yellow star." Elder Zixmuth made a sound that was like crystal bells ringing. Among Zephyrians, this meant great surprise. "I remember those stories from when I was very young. My teacher told me they were fairy tales, stories made up to help young ones be brave." "But what if they are not just stories?" Nethril continued. "The records say that long ago. Even the Vorthic Empire encountered these humans during their first expansion into what the humans call their local space. The encounter did not last long. But the reports that survived speak of something that had never happened before in Vorthic history." "What happened?" Commander Velthara asked. "The Vorthic retreated," Nethril said, and her words made the entire chamber fall silent. "According to the fragments we have, the humans did something that made the mighty Vorthic Empire turn around. and flee. No other species in recorded galactic history has ever made the Vorthak retreat from a battle. Admiral Kethver felt something he had not felt in days. Hope. It was small and fragile, but it was there. Do we have coordinates for this human homeworld? The old star charts are in the deepest archives, Nethril replied. The location is marked as a small system in what we now call the Western Spiral Arm, third planet from a Type G yellow star. The coordinates are thousands of years old, but if these humans are real, they might still be there. The chamber shook again as more Vorthak weapons struck their planet's surface. Through the viewing screen, they could see that several of their bioships were retreating from the outer battle lines. The enemy was winning, and everyone in the room knew it. Elder Zixmuth spoke with the authority of his great age. If there is even the smallest chance that these human creatures exist, and that they have power to make the Vorthak afraid, then we must try to contact them. Our people are dying and we have nothing left to lose. The Admiral made his decision quickly. Commander Velthara, prepare our fastest deep space probe. Load it with our most advanced communication systems and translation programs. Include a complete record of our current situation and a formal request for assistance. What should we offer them in return for their help? Velthara asked. Everything, the Admiral replied. Complete access to all our technology, star charts of every system we know, territorial rights to any uninhabited worlds they want, and our eternal friendship. If these humans can save our people from the Vorthak, no price is too high. As the probe was prepared, the council members worked together to compose their message. They told the story of their dying civilization, their brave fight against an enemy that seemed impossible to defeat, and their desperate hope that somewhere among the stars there were beings who might help them. The probe launched just as another wave of Vorthak fighters swept down toward their planet's surface. It shot through space faster than light, carrying with it the last hope of the Zephyrian people. Now all they could do was wait and pray that the ancient stories were true and that somewhere in the vast darkness of space, creatures called humans would hear their call for help. Lieutenant Jake Morrison was having the most boring day of his career when everything changed. He sat at his communication station aboard the exploration vessel Terra Nova, listening to the same empty static that had filled his headphones for the past 6 months. The ship was on a routine deep space mission, mapping star systems in the Outer Rim territories, where no intelligent life had ever been found. Jake yawned and stretched in his chair. He was 26 years old and had joined the Space Service because he wanted adventure and excitement. Instead, he spent most of his time listening to cosmic background radiation and the occasional signal from automated mining probes. His shift was almost over, and he was looking forward to getting some sleep when his equipment suddenly came alive. Every screen on his communication board lit up at once. Alarms started beeping, and his headphones filled with a signal unlike anything he had ever heard before. It was not the random noise of space or the simple beeps of a human probe. This was complex, organized, and clearly artificial. Someone or something was trying to talk to them. Captain Bradley to the communication station immediately, Jake called over the ship's intercom system. His voice was shaking with excitement. We have an incoming transmission of unknown origin. Captain Lisa Bradley arrived at Jake's station within minutes. She was a veteran space officer in her early 40s with short brown hair and sharp green eyes that missed nothing. She had commanded the Terra Nova for 3 years and had never encountered anything more exciting than asteroid fields and dead planets. What do you have, Lieutenant? She asked, looking at the displays that were still flashing with incoming data. Unknown signal from deep space, Captain, Jake reported. The computer says it's coming from approximately 47 light-years away, but that's impossible. Nothing can transmit across that distance except our most powerful relay stations. Play the signal, Captain Bradley ordered. Jake activated the main speakers, and the bridge filled with sounds that made everyone stop what they were doing. It was not music or random noise. It was clearly a language, but like nothing any human had ever heard. The sounds were like crystal bells mixed with wind chimes. Beautiful but completely alien. Chief Science Officer Ben Clark hurried over from his station. He was a tall, thin man with glasses who got excited about any new discovery. "Captain, the signal is incredibly sophisticated. It's using mathematical principles for language structure that we've only theorized about. Whoever sent this is far more advanced than we are. Can we understand what they're saying?" The captain asked. "The signal includes what appears to be a universal translation matrix," Ben explained, his fingers flying over his computer. "Give me a few minutes to run it through our language processors." While Ben worked on translating the message, more crew members gathered on the bridge. Security. Chief Amy Torres stood near the captain's chair, her hand resting on her weapon out of habit. Chief Engineer Pete Sullivan wiped grease from his hands as he came up from the engine room to see what all the excitement was about Dr. Helen Martinez. The ship's medical officer and xenobiologist looked fascinated by the whole situation. She had spent years studying the possibility of alien life, but this was the first time anyone from Earth had encountered actual proof that other intelligent species existed. "Translation is coming through now," Ben announced. The signal is repeating the same message over and over. It appears to be some kind of distress call. The speakers crackled, and then a voice spoke in perfect English. It was clearly artificial, created by computer translation, but the words were clear and understandable. "Greetings to the species called humans who live on the third planet of the yellow star. We are the Zephyrin Republic, and we are dying. Our worlds are under attack by an enemy we cannot defeat. The ancient records speak of your people and say that you have power to fight those who seem unbeatable. We beg for your help. In return, we offer you all our knowledge, our technology, and our friendship. Please respond if you receive this message. We do not have much time left." The bridge fell completely silent except for the humming of the ship's engines. Everyone stared at each other, trying to process what they had just heard. First contact with an alien species was something that scientists and philosophers had talked about for centuries, but no one had really expected it to happen like this. "They know about us," Captain Bradley said slowly. "Somehow, these aliens know about Earth and humans specifically. They even know we call our star yellow. And they're asking for help," added Dr. Martinez. "An advanced alien civilization is asking us for military assistance against an enemy they can't fight? What could they possibly think we can do that they can't?" Security Chief Torres frowned. "It could be a trap, Captain. We don't know anything about these aliens or their enemies. For all we know, this could be some kind of trick to get us to reveal our location." "The signal didn't come from our direction," Jake pointed out. "If they already know where Earth is, they're not trying to trick us into revealing it." Chief Engineer Sullivan spoke up from the back of the group. "Captain, I've been analyzing the probe that delivered this message. The technology is incredible. Their power systems are at least 200 years ahead of ours, maybe more. These aren't primitive aliens asking for help. These are people with technology that makes ours look like stone tools." Ben Clark pulled up more data on his screen. The message includes star charts and technical specifications. They're offering U.S. access to faster-than-light communication technology, advanced medical knowledge, and power generation systems that could solve Earth's energy problems forever. Dr. Martinez leaned forward with excitement. "Captain, this is the most important moment in human history. We're not just talking about first contact anymore. We're talking about joining a galactic community of intelligent species." But they want military help," Torres reminded everyone. "They're asking us to fight in their war against an enemy we know nothing about. That's not exactly a friendly welcome to the galaxy." Captain Bradley walked to the main viewing screen and stared out at the stars. She knew that whatever decision she made in the next few minutes would change everything for the human race. Earth had always been alone in the universe as far as anyone knew. Now they were being asked to choose sides in an alien war. "Lieutenant Morrison, can we send a reply to their probe?" she asked. "Yes, Captain. The probe is still in range and appears to be waiting for a response." "Chief Clark, how long would it take us to reach their coordinates?" Ben calculated quickly. "At maximum warp speed, approximately 4 days. But Captain, we should contact Earth Command first. This is way beyond our mission parameters. By the time we contact Earth and wait for orders, these Zephyrians might all be dead, the captain replied. They said they don't have much time. Dr. Martinez stood up. Captain, we took an oath when we joined the space service to explore strange new worlds and seek out new life. Well, here's new life, and they need our help. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Walker, the ship's tactical officer, had been listening quietly from his station. He was a calm, thoughtful man who rarely spoke unless he had something important to say. Captain, there's something else to consider. If these Zephyrians are as advanced as their technology suggests, and they're losing a war, then their enemy must be incredibly powerful. Are we really prepared to face something that can defeat a civilization more advanced than ours? That's exactly why they need us, Amy Torres said, surprising everyone. Maybe being less advanced is actually an advantage somehow. Captain Bradley made her decision. Lieutenant Morrison sent a reply. Tell them that the crew of the Terra Nova will meet with them to discuss their situation. Include our current coordinates and tell them we can reach their position in 4 days. Are we really doing this, Captain? Ben asked. We're doing this, she confirmed. Set course for the coordinates in their message, maximum warp speed, and send a message to Earth Command informing them of the situation. If we're about to make history, they should know about it. As the Terra Nova turned toward unknown space and engaged its warp drive, Jake sent their reply message toward the distant Zephyrian probe. Somewhere among the stars, an alien civilization was waiting for help, and humanity was about to take its first step into a much larger and more dangerous universe than anyone had ever imagined. The meeting between humans and Zephyrians took place in the main conference room of the Terra Nova 4 days after first contact. Captain Bradley had chosen neutral space between the two fleets as the meeting point, far enough from the war zone to be safe but close enough for the Zephyrians to return quickly if needed. Admiral Kethver materialized in the center of the room using a transportation technology that made the human crew step back in amazement. One moment the space was empty, and the next moment a tall figure made of living crystal stood before them. His body was translucent blue, and light seemed to move through him in patterns that changed with his emotions. You are smaller than our archive suggested, the Admiral said, his voice coming from speakers that translated his crystal chimes into English. Yet I can see why the old records spoke of humans as being different from other species. Dr. Helen Martinez leaned forward, with scientific curiosity lighting up her face. She had spent the entire journey to this meeting point, reading everything the Zephyrians had sent about galactic history and alien biology. Admiral Kethver, what exactly do your archives say about humans? Until we received your message, we had no idea that any other species in the galaxy even knew we existed. The Zephyrian Admiral's form flickered with what the humans were learning meant deep thought among his people. The records are very old and many of them are incomplete. Most of what we know comes not from our own encounters with your species, but from archives we recovered from Vorthak ships that we captured during earlier battles. Chief Science Officer Ben Clark adjusted his glasses and pulled out his datapad. You mean the Vorthak Empire has encountered humans before? When did this happen? According to the timestamps in the recovered data, approximately 800 years ago by your calendar, Kethver replied. The Vorthak were expanding their territory beyond what you call your local group of star systems. Their fleets encountered human ships in what they described as a minor border skirmish. Security Chief Amy Torres sat up straighter in her chair. 800 years ago? But Captain, humans didn't have space travel 800 years ago. We barely had sailing ships back then. That is what makes this so puzzling, Dr. Martinez said thoughtfully. Either the Vorthak records are wrong about the timeline, or something happened in our history that we don't know about. Admiral Kethver crystal form pulsed with urgent light patterns. The details of when and where matter less than what the Vorthak reports say about the encounter itself. According to their military archives, it was the first time in their expansion that they chose to retreat instead of fighting until they achieved total victory. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Walker, the tactical officer, leaned forward with interest. What exactly happened during this encounter? What did the humans do that made the Vorthak retreat? The reports are fragmentary and much of the data appears to have been deliberately destroyed, Kethver explained. But the parts that survived paint a picture of warfare unlike anything the Vorthak had ever experienced. Most galactic species fight according to established patterns. When faced with superior numbers and technology, they either surrender with honor or fight bravely until defeat becomes inevitable. And humans didn't follow those patterns? Captain Bradley asked. According to the Vorthak reports, humans did something that no other species had ever done. When defeat seemed certain, when logic and reason demanded surrender, the humans refused to give up. More than that, they began fighting in ways that made no tactical sense but somehow worked anyway. Chief Engineer Pete Sullivan scratched his head. What do you mean by fighting in ways that made no sense? Kethver accessed more data through his neural links. The Vorthak weapon systems are designed to adapt to enemy attacks. Each time an enemy fires at them, their ships learn how to defend against that specific weapon. Within minutes, most attacks become completely ineffective. But the human ships kept changing their attack methods in ways that the Vorthak computers could not predict or adapt to. Improvisation, Dr. Martinez said with sudden understanding. Humans are naturally good at improvising solutions when our original plans don't work. But there was something else, Kethver continued, and his form dimmed with what looked like fear. Something that frightened the Vorthak more than any weapon or tactic. The human ships were taking massive damage, losing crew members, facing certain destruction, but they never stopped fighting. Even when their ships were crippled and their weapons were failing, they kept attacking. Amy Torres nodded slowly. We call that determination. Some people might call it stubbornness. The Vorthak had never encountered a species that would rather die than submit, the Admiral explained. In their collective understanding of the universe, all intelligent life follows logical patterns. When survival becomes impossible, rational beings surrender to preserve what remains of their civilization. Humans apparently do not think this way. Ben Clark was taking notes as fast as he could. So the Vorthak retreated because they couldn't understand human behavior? More than that, Kethver replied. According to the reports, the encounter broke something fundamental in their collective consciousness. They had built their entire empire on the belief that all intelligent life would eventually submit to superior force. Humans proved that belief wrong, and the Vorthak could not accept or adapt to that reality. Captain Bradley stood up and walked to the conference room's viewing port, looking out at the stars where she knew the Vorthak fleet was still advancing toward Zephyrian space. Admiral, why do you think one human can make a difference in your current war? You have an entire civilization, with technology far beyond ours. Because we have been fighting the Vorthak the way they expect to be fought, Kethver answered. Our tactics are logical, our strategies are rational, and our weapons follow predictable patterns. The Vorthak have adapted to everything we can do, and now they are winning. Dr. Martinez leaned back in her chair with a thoughtful expression. You don't want us to fight the Vorthak with superior weapons or numbers. You want us to fight them with human unpredictability. The archive suggests that humans possess something that no other known species has, the Admiral confirmed. You have the ability to keep fighting even when logic says you should give up. You can create solutions that make no rational sense but somehow work. And most importantly, you refuse to accept defeat even when defeat seems inevitable. Lieutenant. Jake Morrison had been listening quietly from his position at the communications station. But Admiral, how do we know this will work? The encounter you're describing happened hundreds of years ago. Maybe the Vorthak have learned how to deal with human tactics since then. Kethver's form pulsed with desperate hope. Because they have spent 800 years avoiding any contact with human space. Their current expansion has taken them completely around your local group of star systems. An empire that conquers everything in its path has been deliberately avoiding one small region of space for 8 centuries. That suggests they have not forgotten their encounter with humanity. Ryan Walker studied the tactical displays that showed The current position of the Vorthak fleet. How much time do we have before they reach your homeworld? Less than 2 days, Kethver replied grimly. Our remaining defenses will not hold them for long. Captain Bradley turned back to face the Zephyrian admiral. What exactly are you asking us to do? We are asking for one human volunteer to join our fleet and help us fight the Vorthak in ways they will not expect, Kethver explained. Someone who can think like a human, act like a human, and refuse to give up like a human. Someone who can remind the galaxy what it means to have hope when hope seems impossible. The conference room fell silent as the human crew considered the request. They were being asked to send one of their own into a battle against an enemy that had conquered half the galaxy. But they were also being offered the chance to save an entire civilization and possibly change the course of galactic history. Pete Sullivan was the first to speak. I volunteer. If these Vorthak are afraid of humans, let's give them something to really be afraid of. We all volunteer, Amy Torres added, and the rest of the crew nodded in agreement. Captain Bradley smiled at her crew's courage, but she shook her head. This isn't about volunteering for a suicide mission. This is about understanding what makes humans different and using that difference to save lives. Admiral, we accept your request, but we do this our way. What do you mean? Kethver asked. You asked for one human, Captain Bradley replied. But humans work best when we work together. You're getting all of us, and we're going to show the Vorthak exactly what human determination looks like. The Vorthak fleet arrived at the edge of Zephyrian space like a dark storm moving across the stars. Admiral Kethver watched from the bridge of his flagship as hundreds of enemy ships emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. Each ship was a masterpiece of cold efficiency, built for one purpose, to conquer everything in their path. They are 3 hours ahead of our projected arrival time, Commander Velthara reported, her crystal form flickering with stress patterns. Our outer defense stations are already under attack. Through the communication link with the Terra Nova, Captain Bradley could see the tactical display showing the size of the enemy force. She had seen battles before, but nothing like this. The Vorthak fleet was massive, organized, and moving with the precision of a machine designed for destruction. How many ships are we facing? She asked. Initial count shows approximately 800 Vorthak vessels, Kethver replied. Our remaining forces number 31 bioships. The mathematical odds of victory are essentially 0. Chief Science Officer Ben Clark was studying the enemy formations from his station aboard the Terra Nova. Captain, their ship designs are unlike anything in our databases. They appear to be using some kind of adaptive armor that changes configuration based on incoming attacks. Dr. Helen Martinez looked up from her analysis of the Vorthak technology. It's more than just adaptive armor, Ben. Their entire fleet operates like a single organism. When one ship learns how to defend against an attack, that information is instantly shared with every other ship in the fleet. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Walker shook his head as he reviewed the tactical situation. No wonder the Zephyrians are losing. Every time they develop a new weapon or strategy, the Vorthak adapt to it within minutes. It's like fighting an enemy that learns from every mistake you make but never makes mistakes of their own. Security Chief Amy Torres was checking her weapons and equipment. So how do we fight an enemy that can adapt to anything we throw at them? We don't fight them the way they expect to be fought, Captain Bradley replied. Admiral Kethver, what's the current status of your defensive positions? We have established 3 defensive lines around our homeworld, the Zephyrian admiral explained. The outer line consists of automated defense platforms and minefields. The middle line is our remaining fleet positioned to intercept any ships that break through. The inner line is planetary defense systems protecting our cities and evacuation sites. And the Vorthak will systematically destroy each line until they reach your planet, Pete Sullivan observed from his engineering station. They've probably done this same attack pattern hundreds of times before. Lieutenant Jake Morrison was monitoring communications from the battle zone. Captain, I'm picking up Vorthak transmissions. Their language is different from Zephyrian, but our computer is starting to build a translation matrix. What are they saying? Captain Bradley asked. It sounds like tactical communications, very precise, very organized. They're coordinating their attack like a chess game, moving pieces into position for maximum efficiency. Dr. Martinez studied the enemy communication patterns. They're not just efficient, they're predictable. Look at these formation movements. Every ship knows exactly where it's supposed to be and what it's supposed to do. There's no room for individual initiative or creative thinking. That's their weakness, Amy Torres realized. They're so organized and logical that they can't handle chaos. Captain Bradley nodded slowly. Then we give them chaos. Admiral Kethver, I need you to do something. That will seem completely insane. What do you have in mind? The Zephyrian commander asked. Order your fleet to retreat to the inner defensive line immediately. Don't fight the Vorthak at the outer or middle positions. Let them advance unopposed until they're almost at your planet. Velthara's crystal form flashed with shock. Captain Bradley, that will leave our people completely exposed. If your plan fails, the Vorthak will be able to attack our cities directly. If we fight them the way they expect, your plan will definitely fail, Captain Bradley pointed out. The only chance we have is to do something so unexpected that their adaptive systems can't handle it. Admiral Kethver was silent for a long moment, his form cycling through different colors as he considered the human's proposal. Finally, he spoke. Very well. I will order the retreat. But Captain, I hope you understand what you are asking us to do. We are putting the lives of billions of our people in your hands. I understand, Captain Bradley replied grimly. Ryan, I need you to analyze the Vorthak fleet composition and movement patterns. Look for any weaknesses or blind spots we can exploit. Already on it, Captain. The interesting thing is that their ships are positioned for maximum firepower and defensive coverage, but they're not positioned for rapid maneuvering. They're built for overwhelming force, not for dealing with fast, unpredictable attacks. Ben Clark looked up from his sensor readings. Captain, the Terra Nova is tiny compared to those Vorthak ships. Our weapons probably can't even penetrate their shields. Then we don't try to penetrate their shields, Amy Torres suggested. We try to confuse them instead. What do you mean? Pete Sullivan asked. Look at their behavior patterns, Amy explained. They adapt to threats by analyzing and categorizing them. But what happens if we give them something that can't be categorized? Captain Bradley smiled for the first time since the battle began. Amy's right, we're not going to try to destroy their fleet. We're going to try to break their computer systems by giving them problems they can't solve. Jake Morrison received. An update from the Zephyrian fleet. Captain, Admiral Kethver reports that his ships are falling back to the inner defensive line. The Vorthak are advancing faster now that there's no resistance. Perfect, Captain Bradley said. That means they're getting confident. Confident enemies make more mistakes. Ben, I need you to prepare the most random, illogical attack pattern you can think of. Nothing that follows standard tactical doctrine. How random are we talking, Captain? Random. Enough that our own computers can't predict what we're going to do next. If we can't predict our own actions, then the Vorthak definitely can't adapt to them. Dr. Martinez was studying the psychological profiles they had developed of both species. Captain, there's something else we should consider. The Zephyrians fight with honor and courage, but they fight to protect their civilization. The Vorthak fight to conquer and expand their empire, but humans ... Humans fight because we're too stubborn to quit, Pete Sullivan finished. Even when we should quit. Exactly. Helen confirmed. And that's something neither the Zephyrians nor the Vorthak understand. Both of them fight for logical reasons. Humans sometimes fight just because someone told us we couldn't win. Ryan Walker pulled up the tactical display showing the approaching enemy fleet. Captain, the Vorthak will reach the inner defensive line in approximately 40 minutes. Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it soon. Captain Bradley stood up and walked to the center of the bridge. She looked at each member of her crew, people who had signed up for exploration and discovery, but were now about to face the most dangerous enemy in the galaxy. All right, everyone, here's what we're going to do. We're going to fly our little ship directly into the middle of the most powerful fleet in galactic history, and we're going to attack them with everything we have. Not because we think we can win, but because sometimes the most important battles are the ones you fight even when you know you can't win. That's completely insane, Captain, Ben Clark observed. Exactly, Captain Bradley replied with a grin. And that's why it might just work. The Vorthak have conquered half the galaxy by being logical, efficient, and predictable. Time to show them what happens when they meet a species that doesn't care about logic. Amy Torres checked her weapons. One more time. So we're really going to attack 800 enemy ships with one exploration vessel? We're not trying to destroy 800 ships, the captain corrected. We're trying to do something that will be so unexpected, so illogical, and so impossible that it will make the Vorthak question everything they think they know about warfare. Jake Morrison opened a communication channel to the Zephyrian fleet. Admiral Kethver, this is Terra Nova. We're beginning our attack run. Whatever happens, don't try to help us or follow our lead. Just be ready to take advantage of any confusion. We create. Understood, Captain Bradley, came the reply. And thank you. Whatever the outcome, the Zephyrian people will remember your courage. Remember our stubbornness, Captain Bradley corrected. All hands, battle stations. Let's go show the galaxy what humans do when someone tells us we can't win. The Terra Nova burst from its hiding position behind a small asteroid like an angry hornet attacking a herd of elephants. Captain Bradley had ordered all weapons to charge to maximum power, even though she knew their ship's armaments were insignificant compared to the massive Vorthak fleet spread across space in front of them. All weapons firing, Amy Torres reported as energy beams and missile volleys streaked toward the nearest enemy ships. Direct hits on 3 Vorthak vessels, but their shields are absorbing everything we can throw at them. Perfect, Captain, Bradley said, confusing her crew. Ryan, execute attack pattern Alpha Random 7. Lieutenant Commander Walker looked at his tactical display with bewilderment. Captain, that's not a real attack pattern. I just made up that designation 5 minutes ago. Even better. If we don't know what we're doing, then the Vorthak definitely can't predict it. The Terra Nova spun through a series of maneuvers that would have made no sense to any military academy instructor. They dove under the enemy formation, rolled upside down, fired at random targets, and then accelerated directly toward the center of the Vorthak fleet. Lieutenant Jake Morrison was monitoring enemy communications as their small ship danced between massive alien warships. Captain, the Vorthak are trying to coordinate a response, but they keep changing their orders. I think we're confusing their tactical computers. Chief Science Officer Ben Clark was watching his sensor readings with fascination. The enemy ships are adapting their shields to our weapon frequencies, but we keep switching weapons randomly. They can't establish a consistent defense pattern. How long can we keep this up? Chief Engineer Pete Sullivan asked as the ship shook from a near miss by Vorthak return fire. As long as it takes, Captain Bradley replied. Amy, switch to kinetic projectiles. Stop using energy weapons entirely. Security Chief Torres looked puzzled. Captain, our kinetic weapons are even less effective than our energy beams. I'm not trying to be effective in the traditional sense. I'm trying to be impossible to categorize. Dr. Helen Martinez was analyzing the Vorthak response patterns from her station. Captain, their fleet coordination is starting to break down. Look at these formation changes. They're moving ships into defensive positions to counter threats that don't actually exist. They're trying to adapt to our tactics, but we don't have any tactics, Ryan Walker observed. Every time they adjust their defenses, we do something completely different. The Terra Nova performed another impossible maneuver, flying between 2 Vorthak ships and launching every emergency flare and distress beacon they had. The colorful lights exploded harmlessly against enemy hulls, doing no damage but creating a spectacular light show that served no apparent tactical purpose. Why are we shooting fireworks at them? Ben Clark asked. Because no military computer in the galaxy is programmed to respond to fireworks as a weapon, Captain Bradley explained. Amy, what else can we shoot at them? Well, we still have the waste recycling containers from last week's garbage disposal. Launch them, Captain, that's literally garbage. Launch the garbage, Chief Torres. Let's see how the mighty Vorthic Empire deals with being attacked by human trash. The Terra Nova's garbage containers flew through space toward the enemy ships, spinning end over end and scattering debris across the battlefield. The Vorthak point defense systems, designed to intercept missiles and energy beams, tried to target the incoming waste containers as if they were serious threats. Jake Morrison started laughing despite the danger of their situation. Captain, the Vorthak are using their main battle lasers to shoot at our garbage. They're treating banana peels and food scraps like guided missiles. How are their formations holding up? Captain Bradley asked. They're not, Ryan reported. Half their fleet is turning to engage us, but they keep getting in each other's way because our movements don't follow any predictable pattern. Admiral Kethver's voice came through the communication system from the Zephyrian flagship. Captain Bradley, what are you doing? The Vorthak fleet appears to be malfunctioning. We're fighting a war the way humans fight wars. Captain Bradley replied as her ship performed a barrel roll that had no tactical value whatsoever, without any regard for logic, efficiency, or common sense. The battle continued for another 20 minutes, with the Terra Nova zipping around the enemy fleet like a minnow swimming through a school of sharks. Every time the Vorthak tried to establish a firing pattern or defensive formation, the human ship would do something so unexpected that their tactical computers had to start over. Dr. Martinez was monitoring the psychological impact of the battle on both fleets. Captain, I'm detecting massive communication increases in the Vorthak fleet. Their individual ship commanders are requesting new orders every few seconds because their standard protocols don't cover this situation. And the Zephyrians? Their morale readings are off the charts. They've never seen anything like this before? Pete Sullivan called out from his engineering station. Captain, we're down to 15% power reserves. We can't keep this up much longer. We don't need to keep it up much longer, Captain Bradley said as she watched the tactical display. Look at the enemy formation. The Vorthak fleet, which had started the battle in perfect organizational formation, was now scattered across space in complete disarray. Ships were pointing in random directions, some were firing at empty space where they thought the Terra Nova might appear next, and several had actually collided with each other while trying to coordinate their response. Open a channel to all frequencies, Captain Bradley ordered. Every ship in the system, including the Vorthak. Channel open, Captain. Captain Bradley stood up and spoke clearly into the communication system, knowing her words would be heard by every intelligent being in the star system. This is Captain Lisa Bradley of the Earth vessel Terra Nova to the Vorthak Empire. You wanted to know what happens when you encounter humans. This is what happens. We don't fight to win. We fight because that's what humans do, and we never stop fighting no matter how impossible the odds become. Her words were translated into every language known to the galactic civilizations and broadcast across space. On planets throughout the sector, species that had hidden from the Vorthak for generations heard a human voice declaring that some things in the universe refused to surrender. Jake Morrison was monitoring long-range communications. Captain, we're receiving signals from multiple star systems. Ships are responding to our transmission. What kind of ships? Everything, Captain. Cargo vessels, exploration ships, passenger liners, mining platforms. Species I've never heard of are sending messages saying they're coming to help. Dr. Martinez looked amazed. They're not military vessels. They're just ordinary people who heard what we said and decided they wanted to be part of it. The Vorthak fleet, faced with a situation their computers couldn't process, and now seeing dozens of new ships arriving from every direction, did something they had never done in their recorded history. They stopped attacking. Admiral Kethver's voice filled with wonder came through the communication system. Captain Bradley, the Vorthak are retreating. For the first time in anyone's memory, they are withdrawing from a battle they could have won. They could have won if this had been a normal battle, Captain Bradley corrected. But this was never about winning or losing. This was about proving that some things in the universe can't be conquered, adapted to, or understood. Sometimes they can only be respected. As the Vorthic fleet regrouped and began withdrawing from Zephian space, more ships continued to arrive. From across the galaxy, species that had never met each other before found themselves flying in formation, united by the simple idea that sometimes you have to fight, even when you can't win. Ben Clark was analyzing the readings from the retreating enemy fleet. "Captain, the Vorthic ships are transmitting on frequencies we've never detected before. It looks like they're having internal debates about what just happened." "They're probably trying to figure out how to categorize us," Amy Torres observed. "Good luck with that." Pete Sullivan was working to restore their ship's power systems. "Captain, we've got enough power to get home, but that's about it. We pretty much used everything we had." "It was worth it," Dr. Martinez said as she watched the growing collection of alien ships that had come to join their impossible stand. "We just proved that hope is more powerful than logic." Admiral Kethver materialized on their bridge one more time, his crystal form glowing with patterns of deep gratitude. "Captain Bradley, your species has saved not just the Zephyrian Republic, but the idea that freedom can exist in this galaxy. How can we ever repay such a debt?" Captain Bradley looked around at her crew, all of whom had risked everything based on nothing more than a stubborn refusal to accept defeat. "You don't owe us anything, Admiral. This is just what humans do. We don't like bullies, and we especially don't like bullies who think they can't be stopped." As the Terra Nova began its journey home, escorted by ships from a dozen different species, Jake Morrison received one final transmission from the edge of the star system. It was from the Vorthak fleet, and for the first time, it wasn't a demand for surrender. "What do they want?" Captain Bradley asked. Jake smiled as he read the translation. "They want to know if we'd be interested in establishing diplomatic relations."